Well, staying with the story now, necessity supplies, especially food, are direly needed in the southern Gaza Strip after large numbers of civilians were forced to move from the north to the south as Israeli military had ordered. Catastrophic conditions facing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza risk getting worse still due to the severe fuel shortages which threaten to bring food and other humanitarian operations to a standstill. Now, let's get an update on this. We're now joined via Teams by World Food Programme Media Relations in the Middle East and North Africa region, Reem Nada. Thank you so much for your time. Now, your organization has already assisted tens of thousands of people that are currently in shelters and, of course, in communities across Gaza and the West Bank. Just how many people are in urgent need of aid right now?
The World Food Programme estimates that there are 1.1 million people who are in desperate need of aid. Let's not forget that 1.4 million people now are internally displaced in Gaza. Hundreds of children, women, men, elderly, they're all crammed in hospitals and shelters, and people are becoming increasingly desperate despite the fact that the World Food Programme did provide them with food assistance. However, this food is not enough. For every person who gets the World Food Programme assistance, there are 6 more people who need this assistance, and there is simply not enough food to supply them with what they need. And fuel also is another hurdle. Yes, go ahead.
No, continue. I was going to say, I mean, you mentioning, of course, you know, the shortage of food, but more importantly, it's the fuel crisis that will also further exacerbate that shortage. I mean, we know, of course, that over 39 of your trucks are at or near the Egyptian border, you know, within Gaza, and not all of them are being allowed in. Just give us that sense of what is happening at the border. Are trucks that contain fuel still being denied entry by Israel?
Sorry, but our trucks that are waiting by the borders, they do not have fuel. They have food assistance. However, fuel is crucial, as you say, because without fuel, bakeries will not be able to operate. In the beginning of the crisis, the World Food Programme, to be able to provide daily bread for up to 200,000 people in shelters, we used 23 bakeries across the Gaza Strip. But now we only have 1 bakery who is able to provide this assistance. So we're down from 200,000 people to only 20,000 people over the past couple of days, and it's all because of fuel. Also, fuel is needed for our movement within the strip. So if there is no fuel, we cannot be able, bakeries cannot operate, hospitals cannot operate. Relief efforts in general are hampered because there is lack of fuel. And let's not forget also the other problem, which is water and sanitation. The contaminated water, because there's no fuel to operate water pumps, is also an added problem for people in Gaza at the moment.
We understand, of course, at this point in time, Israel is not moving on those humanitarian pause, areas that everybody essentially is calling for, and that the war continues, the bombardment continues. Just give us a sense in terms of how your operations are being conducted in the south in particular, because of course we know that tens of thousands of people were asked to move from the north to the south. How are conditions there, particularly, you know, mentioning the issue of concerns around sanitation and contaminated water at this point?
Well, let me just reiterate that humanitarian agencies, including the World Food Programme, we are mandated to help everybody everywhere who needs our help, who needs our assistance. But right now, our communication with 2 days ago, in the evening of Friday, our communication with our teams on the ground was cut off for almost 6 hours. And this, of course, was a huge, first of all, it's a huge safety concern for for our staff on the ground who are going through tremendous difficulties because they themselves are residents of Gaza, they are Gazans themselves, they lost family, friends, they lost their homes, and at the same time they are working. So for us to be able to conduct our operations, for us to be able to help the sheer number of people who need our help, we need safe access, we need actors, we need a humanitarian pause, as the Secretary General has reiterated time and time again. We need a humanitarian pause to be able to provide assistance and to have assistance enter into Gaza that is enough for the needs inside the Strip.
Just in terms of what you are witnessing now and what your teams are witnessing now in terms of the catastrophe on the ground, let's talk about the long-lasting impact of this war, particularly on the people in Gaza, and of course concerns around food security. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, even before this happened, even before this crisis has been going on, there were 1.8 million people inside the Gaza Strip who needed food assistance. There are more than 35% of the population inside Gaza who are food insecure, which means that they need some sort of assistance to be able to secure their daily food needs for themselves and their families. So with this, with the destruction that we see, like even there will need to be some sort of course, the people are in great difficulty, and with the destruction that we see around us, I mean, I cannot predict the future, but the future is not going to be any easier than before it was. It's going to be hard, and it was hard already, so it's even going to be harder.
Just as a final question from my end, should there be a humanitarian pause granted, allowing that desperately needed humanitarian aid, also taking into consideration what you're saying in terms of how many trucks were going into Gaza even before this war? What would it take for you to ensure that everybody, I mean, you talk about over 1 million people that need assistance now. How many trucks are we talking about immediately going into Gaza?
Well, since the borders were open and humanitarian assistance was allowed, which we of course welcomed, and this was an important development. However, so far only 12 trucks, 12 WFP trucks have entered the Gaza Strip. There's less than, I think today it was 140 trucks that entered altogether that entered the Gaza Strip. For the WFP alone to be able to provide assistance at the level that is needed, we need at least 40 trucks every single day, and this is not happening.
Very concerning indeed. Reema, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate your comments and of course your update. That's World Food Programme Media Relations in the Middle East and North Africa region. That's Reem Nada, just giving us an update in terms of what is currently happening on the ground in Gaza.